Hello, everyone. We welcome you to another episode of the Gooners podcast. My name is Arun, and I'm joined today by Bob, representing the Gooners. Hey, Bob. So, how are you feeling now after the Europa League game? Or should we not talk about it and just go directly into the podcast? I'm okay with either.
We'll give it a time. We'll
Okay.
probably invite the guest in, and then we'll start it.
Exactly. I think that's like more comforting to not talk about that game and just move on to Nottingham Forest. So yes, we are going to be previewing the Nottingham Forest game that's coming up this weekend. And to help us do that, we have a very special guest with us today, Tom Newton, all the way from Nottingham, a part of the 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Evening or morning, I should say.
We're across time zones, so anything would fly.
I'm good, thank you.
So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us again. Like I said before, thanks a lot for joining us, Tom. So Tom is a part of the 1865 Nottingham Forest, the Nottingham Forest podcast. They do a lot of good work in terms of like talking about how their team is faring in terms of the stats. It's I would say, like they say, it's an intelligent Nottingham Forest podcast. So it provides like a real fans view, and that's something that anybody who has a podcast about their favorite club, I believe should be trying to do in terms of talking like more, providing more information. So the layman fan can actually get to know more about what's happening in the game. So you can find the link to Tom's podcast in the description below. So yes, Tom, let's get into the episode now. So you're the guest, you're the star of the day. For you to say, people are bored of seeing my face and Bob's face. So we'll just start off with a question from you. I think it's a common question that you might have discussed or some other fans might have asked you as well. How has the jump been from the Championship to the Premier League? Now, there were a lot of factors, external and internal, that were happening around you guys, like jump from the Championship to the Premier League. Yeah, how has it been so far?
It's been tough. We knew it was going to be tough, but it's when you see it in the flesh, you don't realise how tough it's going to be. I mean, this time last year, we was at the bottom of the Championship. Steve Cooper's just been appointed after Chris Hughton got the sack after, I think it was 1 point out the first 8 games. And it was a bit like just improving. We didn't have any... By the end of like August going into September, we thought we was destined to go down. That's how bad things were. And it was an absolute sea change from Steve Cooper. So to actually get to the Premier League come May just gone, it was basically a miracle, really, of where we've come from. And we've had to learn. Well, we have to learn quick. And basically, if you see how we've started the season, it has been really tough, and it's been an absolute culture shock for us in terms of the levels of performance from other teams, etc. But the last few games, I think we're coming to getting to grips with the Premier League. So we are.
You did pull that win against Liverpool. I mean, that was like, my God, what's going on? Sort of a moment.
And we fluke it, really, because if you look at the game, it's not like we just had like one chance, we put it away. We've had quite a few chances against Liverpool, albeit I know they were missing a few players, but it was a real good win, and it just gives us that bit more confidence going into.
Tom, I wanted to actually ask further about Steve Cooper and what he's actually done there. Obviously, it's not a simple task for to take the club from the bottom of Championship up to the Premier League and then making them stay there. But there was actually a lot
especially given, like Tom mentioned, that they were at the bottom of the Championship around the same time. So that must have been like, even though they have 40 games in the Championship, that must have been like 15-game mark, I'm assuming.
So I think he come in, I think we was 9 games in, so we had the first 8 games. We
Oh,
had one.
Crystal's
Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's
played
pretty big achievement. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, talk us through what Steve has actually done there so far, because obviously he did actually take, I mean, took the kids, the English kids, to the under-17 World Cup, and then he won them with that, and that actually was a lot of merit in his favor. But then there was actually a talks of him, potentially getting sacked at the start of the season, only for him to be offered a new contract. That was completely, against the keyboard warriors of Twitter. I noticed, because almost everybody were sure that he's going to get the boot, and then finally he went on to sign a new contract. How did you guys feel about it?
I think probably 99.9% of the fan base didn't want him to leave, and if he did get the sack, it was a case of, well, another manager's just going to have the same problems, i.e. trying to find out the best team, the best formations, the best partnerships, etc. So we wouldn't have been any better off. And basically, the things what he's changed when he started here about a year ago is instantly he got it. There's like, we've had former managers who come in and they either the play or the philosophy doesn't adhere themselves to the supporters, or they just find that them being at Forest, it's a massive pressure because of obviously the history's gone before it. But Steve Cooper instantly got it. He embraced what's happened at the club before, i.e. our past successes, and he just played players how they should be played. So it's basically round pegs in round holes, and all the players just basically just played for him, and they were playing better than they thought they could play. And basically everything just slotted into place. And for the first time in 20 odd years, we've actually had a successful season, and hence promotion come from it. And here we are in the Premier League.
Yeah. And just a follow-up question. Sorry, Arun.
No worries. I have another question. No worries. You can go.
Okay. I was going to ask you, Tommy. I mean, and how did he actually see? Obviously, he did bring them up to the Premier League, but then you had quite a busy summer. You didn't just not buy one squad worth of players. Like you had like bought 22 new players. It's insane, really.
A lot. Yeah,
that's where my I was also about to ask the same question pretty much, but my only thing that I would add would be like, you had this squad of players who helped you get to the Premier League, but then you bought a new squad of players right after that.
Yeah, so basically what happened is that from the outside looking in, yes, it looks insane, and a lot of questions have been asked why. So at the end of the season, so we had about 5 loan players. So Jed Spence went back to Middlesbrough, then he went to Spurs. James Garner went back to Man United. We thought we was going to get him back, but Man United messed around all some of that. They wanted to have a look at him. And
those assholes, yeah, I know. They always do that.
And then he went to Everton. Zinkernagel, we didn't sign him. Trying to think who else. Keenan Davis went back to Aston Villa, and now he's on loan at Watford. And
so it seems like a lot of the players who were a part of the squad who helped you get to the Premier League were on loan from other clubs. That's
yeah, pretty much. Then Lewis Graben, who had been at the club for 4 years, his contract come up to an end, and for whatever reason, he decided that he didn't want to extend his stay. The goalkeeper Brice Samba, he went back to France. Joe Lolly, he's playing out in Australia. I think he's gone to Sydney or somewhere like that. So, and a lot of that, the players just weren't good enough. So it's just like that core squad had basically just gelled and just hit the ground running. And then come after the playoff final, they weren't there anymore. So hence why we've signed all those players to replace them. Plus, you need obviously quality and depth after that. So that's why we've signed. There's a couple of signings there which was like, really, but it's one of those, isn't it? So it does look insane from the outside looking in, but we'll get it. But it's like, no disrespect to you guys, but the people who have been asking us the question, it's been the question all through the summer from like Talk Sport, social media, they're like, "Oh, why have you signed so many players?" And it's always the same answer. That's that's the reason. So, but yeah, it's just one of them, really.
It's interesting that you brought it up because it's for sure you need like your level ratios. You need an increase in quality when you're making the jump from the Championship to the Premier League. But like one of the things that we always see, and like and the great Arsene Wenger even said that the most important man of the club is the manager. If things go wrong, that's the one that you sack. You got 22 players, and you did not have a great start to the season.
No.
You've like no, it's not been great. When things don't go wrong, I'm pretty sure Bob would have thought the same. Like we would have thought Cooper was going to get the sack. But on the contrary, the members of the recruitment board, like I think it was the head of recruitment and another person who were actually sacked. What was the logic behind this? Like, are you aware of anything? Because like you told me, you got 20 players and maybe one or two of them were not up to the mark, but like you still have a squad. So why did those guys get the boot and not Cooper?
I just think that we don't know the ins and outs, but I think it was the fact that with the investment, what was put in place, I think the ownership thought we could have done a lot better, and ultimately that didn't happen. So whether the ownership was it money well spent, but then it was a case of, well, there was a guy called Durekis who's basically his bias is from the Bundesliga. So if you look at some about, we got them from the Bundesliga, and the other guy was a guy called Andy Scott, who was a Steve Cooper man, basically. And it was a matter of that, well, if them two stayed, it might have been the chief executive and Steve Cooper who would have got the sack.
Yeah.
It's just one of those where clubs have the reasons, and if you pick it, if it was either of Steve Cooper and Dane Murphy or the other two, you want Steve Cooper, who got us into the Premier League in the first.
Yeah,
you probably see it a lot at like other Premier League clubs, and it's probably like not really been mentioned that sometimes there is a bit of shuffling about when it comes to personnel behind the scenes, etc. And because everything's on social media and everything, even in like programs, clubs put like who's who, etc. And if somebody leaves, you think it's panic stations, but it's one of those like. Even in the workplace of like normal jobs, people move about, don't they? So it's one of them.
Yeah. You look for better opportunities. Yeah, that's true. So we spoke about Nottingham Forest now. Now, let's talk a little bit about Arsenal. I'm going to just ask a quick question to Bob and Tom. Like, feel free to chip in. You can say anything you want. Basically, if you think that we're assholes, go for it and say that. No worries. So yeah, Bob. We had this fantastic start to the season. We come to a point where there seems to be a dip in the level of gameplay. Could be due to a lot of reasons, like fatigue or whatever it might be. We drew at Southampton very unconvincingly. We won at Leeds again very unconvincingly, and I think the PSV game, the loss that we had, was bound to happen. So what do you attribute this to? Like, do you feel that this PSV game happening and us getting a loss is actually going to put some fire under the players and under the butts and then like make them perform again? Because Arteta always keeps talking about how well we come back from a setback, right? So that's talk to me about like all these 3-4 games that we've been having, this run that we've been having.
See, I think you mentioned that we did have a dip. Of course, it was actually coming a long time. Our form started dipping right after we won against Liverpool. That we were on a high, and then we slowly started drifting down. We had a narrow game against Bodo Glimt that we discussed before, and then very lucky win against Leeds as well away. But there was actually a lot of signs showing that the team or the squad was actually slowing down. I don't know for what reasons. I fail to understand the logic of fatigue here, because we are just 10 or 15 games barely if you count in the European games as well along into the new season. So every professional player who's been playing at the top level should be able to put up like 40-50 odd decent games before he can start saying fatigue as a reason for them to not perform. But then, having said that,
could it possibly be due to the fact that we play like a very high intense pressing game? So the amount of, but then,
not
of course
necessarily.
they do train for that.
No, so I would have agreed to that if you've been like crazy pressing all the games. But then if you actually look at the Leeds game, for example, our performance dropped straight away into the second half of that game. Like we didn't really put any clear efforts, or even didn't even make an attempt to press, in the attacking half. So I don't know what was the mentality going around with the players at that point in time. But then in a contrary way that I look at things, this loss against PSV was sort of a wake-up call. I mean, we needed this.
I think the club needed this, the fans needed this, I think everyone needed it.
It's a sort of a kick in the butt, I mean, you couldn't keep winning all the games. We know that for a fact that we're not going to keep winning. And then, of course, we know the fact that we're not going to win the Premier League. If any fan says so, they are completely deluded. I'll still say that. So we know the fact that there are going to be ups and downs in the season, and it's good to get a down sometimes for us players to be, think about themselves that they're not really what they think they have been doing, and then they need to start looking at, or putting more intensity into games for them to try and come up with results. The PSV game made seriously the scoreline from what we looked at, and the actual game. I watched that game, like it was crazy.
Thankfully, I did not watch even a minute of the game. I just got up.
It's good that you didn't. We had two. We considered two, but then there were three which got chalked off. If not for that, the scoreline would have been deadly. Seriously. This looked like the shadow of the team. That won against Liverpool, sort of a thing. So it's. We were completely outplayed.
I think all the effort and all the energy was put into the Liverpool game, so they're just flat right now, probably.
Yeah, no, and what's more worrying is this is the first. We did field a very strong, first 11 in the first 11, and then even in the second half we did have. It was rounded off by bringing in Jesus, Saka, and Partey, three of them who are linchpins of our teams. And even with that, we were not able to do any attacking threat to them. Is what's looking more worrying. But then you could think that maybe complacency played a part in the loss. We could just think so. I mean, we can speculate all those things, but then. At the end of the day, Arteta quite, mentioned the fact that, this team needs to undergo a reset. And that's precisely what needs to happen. They need to think of, the fact that they need to start putting in results again. And then...
Yeah, I can't wait for the World Cup to start. Just finish these 3 games and go.
See, yes, you would have that thought at the back of the mind. I think maybe the players would be thinking not to get injured at this crucial hour, because all that they're prepared for is to show themselves at the World Cup and all those sort of things, which is fair enough. But still, you still have to play for points. You still have to put in performance that can actually lead you up there. And mind you, with all those 3 games that we still have left in the league, there needs to definitely be a positive result in all of those for us to be in the reckoning post once we come back from the World Cup. So yes, it's a good wake up call that we lost a game, but I mean we need to really think of ourselves, or the players need to think of where they are heading into, because exactly it's resembling last season when we were. Sort of on top.
Now that you've spoken about last season, let me ask you this: are you panicking?
Not yet. I probably would have panicked. Maybe if we had done this earlier part of the season, but I think there are signs to show that this team is not quite at crumbling like last season. But there are signs. I mean, obviously we can't ignore them. Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So with that view, we'll come to the game where it's sort of a must win for us right now. After all that has happened over the last week, everybody is expecting a win against Nottingham Forest, and we are playing at home. But Nottingham Forest again have shown that they are like Tom said, they are coming sort of on a comeback trail, beating Liverpool and all that. I mean, beating Liverpool is not an easy feat. So Tom, talk to me about your team. Who is your main man? Who should we be scared of?
He hasn't started every game, but Taro Awoniyi, who we signed from Union Berlin, he gave Gomez and Van Dijk a run around, and then So hopefully, we've looked a lot better when we've had a striker, and we've changed formation because we was playing with 3 centre halves and 2 wing backs and just the 2 in midfield, but we was getting overrun in midfield. So basically, in recent weeks, we've been playing with a flat back 4. Then we've had 3 in midfield and 3 up front, and either side of. So against Brighton, we played Lingard, Gibbs-White, and Brennan Johnson, and it shows promise, but then we haven't got like a focal point in our attack. Whereas last Saturday, Johnson was dropped to the bench, and Gibbs-White and Lingard played alongside Awoniyi. So there's no reason for us to change a winning side, and I think we will. I think it will be an unchanged side on Sunday. And so I think
it's the same 4-3-3 that you'd be playing.
Yeah, and I think if Awoniyi shows the same levels of performance that he did against Liverpool, I think your 2 centre halves, is it Gabriel, and I can't remember who the other one is.
Saliba. Oh, we made a song for him. All of England is singing that song.
Yeah, so yeah, if we defend really well, we've got to think if we've started to clog up the middle of the pitch in terms of teams are finding it very hard to break us down, and
that's where we struggle as well. The midfield congestion is where we struggle as well.
Yeah. So if we've got to play the game on Sunday in like blocks of 20, keep you quiet for the first 20 minutes, and try and build from that. You see, I've got no. I don't think we will change formation.
Just a question similar to what Arun asked me for Arsenal. Would you say the win against Liverpool was long coming, or would you say it was just a fluke? I mean, it's a quite harsh term to use, but still, yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a fluke, because if you look back on the game, we limited Liverpool to very few chances. The only clear-cut chances they really had was Cavalier in the first 10 minutes, and Van Dijk's had a couple of headers. So it was a day where everything clicked. We had a couple of hairy moments, like the last couple of minutes where Van Dijk's had a free header and Henderson saved it. But in the last couple of weeks, since the Leicester game, we've started to slowly improve in terms of we've stemmed the tide of goals going in against us. We've been harder to beat. Then last Saturday was the first time where we got defensively was spot on, and we showed promise in the final third. So we're like I said, we've gone back to the drawing board. We've changed tactics and approach and everything, and that's slowly coming to fruition now.
So Bob, I'll come back to you now. Who do you think is going to be the Dangermen from Arsenal for this game? Given we now know how Newcastle are likely to play, and we need to break that midfield congestion. So who's going to be the key for
Newcastle, man? It's quite distant.
Nottingham Forest, it's Nottingham Forest.
Get yourself a coffee, mate. Seriously.
I surely need one now.
We haven't been in the league for a long time, but
no, I'm really sorry about that, mate.
It could be worse. It could, because we hate being called Notts Forest. Jamie Carragher on Sky Sports, and he's improved in the last few weeks, and that's probably the nearest we get to sectarism, to be honest. So, but yeah,
trust me, I don't want to call you guys Newcastle United. So, yeah. So yeah, but go on.
Yes. From Arsenal side, I feel our midfield will be very pivotal. If we were to actually get a positive result, we want Partey and xhaka to be having the top of the game for everything else to click. I feel still Martinelli and Saka have got some pace in them to sort of hurt Aurier and Nico Williams, or either on those flanks. But I think it will be mostly dependent upon how we can actually force ourselves in the midfield, and then sort of impose our game there for the wingers to get more sort of width and space possibly cause a result. It's going to be at the Emirates, so it's going to be a bit comforting there, after a few of these performances which has not actually stood up to what we expect. So in that way, it will suit, obviously with our home support in place. But yeah, I think the midfield is going to be the key one that we have to keep ticking on for us to try and impose a buoyant Forest side, I'd say.
Tom said, yeah, go on, Tom.
Isn't Martinelli a doubt? I'm sure I read today that
That's the other Gabriel. We have 3 of them. That's a centre back, yeah.
The Magalhaes is probably injured.
Magalhaes is out.
Yeah,
likely out. Yeah. But we'll be having Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli.
Martinelli.
Yeah. So it's only the centre back that you were asking about, the one who plays with Saliba and Magalhaes. So he's likely out because he was limping after the game against PSV.
Martinelli, the winger. I thought he might be a doubt.
Don't give us a shock like this, Tom. Not like a couple of days before the match. We didn't hear anything of this.
I think it was on BBC.
Oh my God, no!
So I think honestly, he limped off, and he was a doubt. That's what I read today. But if I'm wrong,
that's Gabriel Magalhaes. He was the one. Yeah, he was the one who limped off.
So it's not Martinelli then.
No.
Okay.
It's the centre back.
Yeah. Okay. No worries then.
Yeah. Well, so Bob, just one last thing before we go into the score predictions. Tom mentioned, it's about them coming out first 20 minutes and doing well the way, and then proceeding in the game. That's the way they see them playing and getting. So how do you think we would be playing given all that's happening? There's a lot of talk about fatigue, lack of form, intensity, and levels dropping and all that. So this is a must-win game for us. And how do you think we can win this one?
Okay. I'll tell you how not to play. How not to play. We faced Forest in FA Cup in Jan or Feb, I don't remember, and we lost. And that's how we shouldn't be playing against this Forest side, because back even then, we were somewhat in confidence, and then we had our we were putting in some decent performances in January.
That kid Spence had an amazing game.
Oh man, yeah, that's what I'm hoping to avoid. Lingard is good. Obviously, he
becomes a rock star against Arsenal. Yeah,
correct.
He becomes a totally different player against
Arsenal.
And
everyone who hasn't got a goal, for example, Armstrong for Southampton, he was not on a scoring role until he faced Arsenal, and that's what I'm more worried about. We shouldn't be giving form to those who haven't been on the scoring sheet.
Bringing people into form, yeah.
But yeah, how not to do is we probably have to look at the Forest game that we lost at. That was an away game, but still that was sort of a potential, thing which took the gas out of us, I would say, and that propelled a lot of things further, as we saw. But yeah, if we were to get a result, I think the boys have to be a lot more focused, and they have to be, keep pressing on, just like how we saw in the initial parts of the season.
Okay, Bob. So now the last part of the podcast, predictions. What is your prediction for the game?
I feel we'll win 2-1. It's 2-1. Been a long time.
Still going to concede that goal?
Yeah. So history shows that we've not been keeping a clean sheet, although we've been winning games. Yes,
especially at home. Yeah.
Yes. So that odd error in us is still there. We have to shackle the monkey off the back. So yeah, I'll still expect to concede a goal.
Okay, so 2-1 from Bob. What do you say, Tom? How confident are you?
Heart says a 1-1. Head says a spirited 1-0 defeat.
You know what? I think I'll take that spirited 1-0 defeat for Nottingham Forest over that 1-1 draw.
Yeah. But yeah, if we somehow can get a 1-1, and hopefully results go our way, then the next 2 games after that for us are Brentford and Crystal Palace before the World Cup. So basically, they're our Bournemouth and Fulham, because we had Bournemouth and Fulham in September, and we was beating Bournemouth 2-0, and we lost the game 3-2, and we was beating Fulham 1-0 and lost the game 3-2. So those 2 games were like basically we should have got maximum points out of that, and it didn't happen. So hopefully, if we get a decent result against you, like I said, I take a 1-1 now, and then the next 2 games, which are 2 games home against, like I says, Brentford first and Crystal Palace. If we can get maximum points out of them and not cut adrift before the World Cup, then that will put us in good stead for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So thanks a lot for your predictions, Tom and Bob. Like Tom, you mentioned, like, a 1-1 draw. I just cannot imagine the furor on Twitter if Arsenal do end up drawing another game. Everyone's going to say, yeah, Arsenal have been found out. They're not going to finish in the top 6. So just for that, I would say I would go with Bob. I would say, like, I am predicting a 2-1 win for us. Again, I'm not confident about keeping a clean sheet at home. We haven't done that all season, and I don't think we'll do that this game either. And like you said, Nottingham are playing with a lot of spirit. It's something that, like, it's very nice to see. I really like it when teams from the Championship come up to the Premier League, play with the big boys, and then show a lot of spirit. And that for me, like, that battle is a huge thing. So I would say, like, yeah, I expect Nottingham to play with a lot of spirit, like causes trouble, causes problems. And given how we're playing, though we have not been doing great, I still believe we can pull a win because it's the home game. If it was away at Nottingham Forest, I wouldn't be this confident at all. I would have given you guys a win. But like now it's at home. So that gives me the confidence, like, to say that we'd be able to win it 2-1. So that would be my prediction as well. So
Arun, sorry, before you conclude, can I just ask Tom a quick question? What do you think, Matt, if you were to think of the end of season predictions, do you guys think that you could actually stay up in the league? What do you guys think?
If you asked me 2 to 3 weeks ago, I would have said no. But the last couple of games have gave me like a bit more confidence of, okay, we've worked out how to deal with the Premier League in terms of playing away from home, playing at home. And so if we can carry on this level of progress like we did against Liverpool, Brighton, and hopefully get something on Sunday at the Emirates, I'm not saying we're going to like go into the top 10, and I think it's going to be a bit close to the knuckle. I think a success for us at the start of the season would have been to finish in 17th place, and I still think that's where our aspirations lie. Now, I mean, the owner did say that he doesn't see 17th for success, but how the season started and where we are now, I think that is where we've got to aim for, 17th. If we stay in this league come May, I think it's a monumental achievement from where we've been in the last year or so.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, for a team that's new to the league, you cannot expect miracles in the very first season, especially like, whatever happens. But like that would be something that's a very good achievable target. I definitely think so, given like how the rest of the teams around the same area are also playing. But then like teams pick up at any point in time during the season, and then probably the second half of the season, like something crazy happens and you guys just get continuously points. So I think that brings us to the end of this podcast. So thanks a lot, Bob, joining us all the way from Sydney, and thanks a lot, Tom. It's late at night. I know it's like it's like sleep time for you. So thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we get to have a really good game at the Emirates on Sunday. Thanks a lot for joining me. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Bye.